Hello everyone and welcome to the W Show. Thanks of course to NAB. 2 more rounds of the home and away season to go until finals are upon us. Of course, we are looking forward to round 9 this weekend. So much to unpack, and here to help me do that, as always, is our award-winning journalist in Sarah Black. Sarah, welcome to you.
Thanks, Nat. Can't believe there's only 18 games, home and away games left.
It is crazy. We've seen a lot of football in 2022. Someone who's played a lot of football this year as well is making her W Show debut. It is Collingwood star Ruby Schleicher. Welcome, Rubes.
The nerves are real for the debut, but I'm happy to be here.
We are absolutely stoked that you are here with us. There is so much to unpack, so we're going to get straight into it. Let's take a look at what has been making news this week thanks to NAB. And a big story, of course, coming out of the Adelaide Crows is that Chelsea Randall will be out for 3 to 5 weeks with that ankle injury. Jess Duffin, the Hawk for the first time this season, she's going to announce she has announced her retirement at the end of the season, and the rising stars Carney Evans and Steph Wales this week. The AFL as well, this is the big story that we've been following, has acknowledged that they made a mistake in the game against the Sydney Swans and the Essendon game, where this was actually called a behind. You can see there that Molly Eastman kicks this pretty much straight through the middle, Sarah, but unfortunately the goal umpire signalled a behind. The AFL has come out and released a statement saying that that decision was wrong. I do feel for Molly here, because as a defender, you're not getting that many opportunities, are you, Ruby, to kick a goal? And she's never kicked one before in AFLW.
Oh, you'd be pretty filthy if you were Molly. Yeah, there's not many opportunities, and no one celebrates a goal like a defender, so you would be pretty flat with that one.
I want to talk further about how I guess we can ensure something like this doesn't happen again, because we can't change the result of the game. That is done. The Swans unable to get their first win of the season. The Bombers win by 4 points. But Sarah, is there more that we can do, as a competition? Is there goal line technology? I mean, what's your take on all of this?
I think we need to remember that as the players are developing, as the competition is developing, so too are the umpires. Unfortunately, we're always going to have human error. The big question has been around goal line technology. We see it in the men's. The arc is always in play. We have all those replays that we love so much.
They don't always work.
No. But they do. No, we're not going there. Still reliving that. But no, I think with the women's, there's just so many grounds that we play AFLW games at. So it's the flip side of that. We love the community field, community grounds, getting closer to the action. But there's just so many grounds that these girls play at. So take South Australia, for example. You've got Adelaide and Port Adelaide in both competitions. In the men's, they play at Adelaide Oval. Yep. In the women's, they play at Adelaide Oval, Unley, Norwood, Glenelg, and Alberton, of course. Yep. So it's 5 grounds. It's not feasible at the moment for goal line technology.
It is a costly exercise when you have to deck out so many different grounds for that technology. My question to you, Ruby, is would you like to see more umpires with AFL experience, perhaps, adjudicating your games? From what we can understand, that goal umpire, it was her first season or first year of adjudicating. And look, we have a problem where with the crossover of the season, there's just not enough umpires in the system. But would you like to see more AFL umpires?
Yeah, absolutely. And as you said, there's always going to be human error and you can't get everything right. But I think you can definitely feel out on the field inconsistencies game to game. Holding the ball calls one week, they're absolutely pinning everything. The next week, you can't buy one. So I think when there's more consistency in the game, you can, I guess, trust the system of, the top 8 that are going into finals. Because it can be the difference between a top 8, a top 4, a first win in Swans' case. So I think, definitely some maybe more experience. And the only way we get experience is through, first-timers and all of that. But I think if we can have some higher level and more experienced umpires, it's really going to make a big difference.
Yeah, I think that is the right way to go. Well, the bigger news that we do need to touch on at the moment is what's happening at the Adelaide Crows, and their skipper, Chelsea Randall, faces a race against the clock to be fit for finals. And really, it's going to be a struggle, isn't it, Sarah? Because 3 to 5 weeks out with this ankle injury, what does that do for their chances? And a question for both of you, can they still win the flag without Chelsea Randall?
Coming into the season, it was all about Adelaide. How are they going to cope without Erin Phillips? Now they're looking at a final series without Erin and Chelsea Randall, who obviously has an incredible record in her influencing games. Randall is just so versatile. That's going to be the real issue for the Crows. She's, you know, won games off her own boot, whether that's in the midfield, off half-back, though not as much this season. It's been in attack where she's been most threatening, Rubes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it hurts because she has been hitting the scoreboard for them and is such a dominant player, but also such a leader for them. So, and obviously they've got other leaders on field, Hatchard, Marinoff, who are probably still developing though, where Randall is a ready-made leader and has led them through, you know, a probably tumultuous start to the season where people wrote them off. So they're really going to have to learn to play without her here.
So who do they replace her with then, Sarah?
Well, this is where the issue lies because, you know, it depends on what do the Crows want to fill. Do they want to fill that attacking role or do they want some more midfield depth? So if they want to go with the attacking option, which I suspect is the way they're going to go, Lisa Whiteley looks to be the one. She's a really strong target in attack and is a proven performer at the top level. If they're looking for more midfield depth, like I imagine Taya Charlton's already going to be spending a bit more time in the centre bounces, but Brooke Tonnen, another youngster, could be the one to see a bit more AFLW time. But unfortunately, you know, Brooke's going to get there. She's a great young player, but it's not like for like.
And it also comes down to, you know, they're making finals, really important part of the year. Do you go with experience of Whiteley or, you know, the youth and maybe the excitement level in the midfield of Tonnen? So it's sort of, I think, you know, going into a final series, you probably want to be putting, when you're losing an experienced player like Randall, you want to be putting your most experienced player in there, which is Whiteley in this case.
Certainly don't envy Matt Clark, Sarah.
No, not at all. And the Crows do have the option of rolling a few other players through the midfield. So Rochelle Martin can spend some more time in there. Hannah Button's been playing in defence this year, but she can also spend some time in the middle. And, of course, Stevie Lee Thompson. You know, they do have options when it comes to the midfield.
So the Cats are their next opponent, the Crows, and both of these sides are actually 6-2 at the moment. So this is going to be such an intriguing clash this weekend, a real big test for the Cats in particular. And I'm curious to get your takes on it, but the midfield battle, Ruby, this is going to be good.
Huge challenge for Geelong and really exciting. I think they're a team that have just grown from, you know, a pretty tricky start to the season, but oh God, their drive out of the middle. Nina Morrison, who we see there, has been absolutely killing it. Had surgery on Monday, I think you were saying, Sarah, and back out there playing on the weekend, but such a driver. Amy McDonald, who's been so solid, and I think they can finally find consistency in their game. You know, they were missing Prasparkas for 2 weeks to a suspension, and when they can, you know, get all their stars together, they're a lot of similarities to a young Adelaide, that early Adelaide side. The pressure that you feel when you play them is ginormous, and they really force teams to make errors.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, Rubes, because I agree. I think this is they're not at Adelaide's level, but this is the next generation midfield that's going to dominate the competition for years to come. You played the Cats earlier this year. What was that experience like?
High pressure. Yeah. Such a high pressure side, and like we said, liking them to a young Adelaide. Adelaide have almost fallen away from that pressure, or maybe lost a little bit of that this year, and I think Geelong really do have early signs of that sort of style. It's the gameplay they want to play, is come at them, force turnovers, force hat kicks, and they have one behind the ball to, you know, mark that off. You know, they get one free, Meg McDonald, so they're so good in the back half, and they're finally figuring out ways to score off their back half turnovers where they struggled to really early on with low scoring games. So pretty exciting time for Geelong Cats fans.
And another storyline, just to make things a little bit more spicy, is that Chloe Shearer, of course, plays against her former side in Adelaide for the very first time. I love these little storylines, Sarah, because there's always a little bit of banter that goes on, isn't there?
Yeah, for sure. Chloe was the big white hope of South Australian junior footy. She won a league best and fairest at 15, and I think, you know, the Crows understood that she wanted a fresh start and moved to Geelong, but there's still a little part of them, I'm sure, that's, you know, she's the one who got away, especially in the form she's in.
Well, I'm keen to see what the Cats do at selection, because Renee Gehring has been an emergency for the past 2 games. She is available, though, for selection 18 weeks. That's right, 18 weeks after giving birth to her son, Parker. She has chosen to share her comeback story with us.
I pinch myself a bit that I'm here and that he comes along. Yeah, I think a bit blown away that it could work to bring him. The club are just like, yeah, come in during the day. So they've just been open and willing. A lot of people do picture is that you're home with a baby all day, and it is a struggle and there is challenges, don't get me wrong, but he's been great and adaptable. I think I'm lucky that I am the type of person that's pretty driven, and if I set my mind on something, I'm going to try my best to do it. I would have loved to have had a natural birth if that was what was going to be, but it wasn't, considering he was struggling, and the most important thing to us was getting him out in a healthy way, and so it was a caesarean. We'd been told leading in that a caesarean would be a longer recovery, and you do what you have to do to get him out. Oh, Ella's here too. Hello. Doing the warm-up with the team for the first time was really nice, just to be jogging alongside other people. I like to follow the rules, and I'm like, if someone sets me a program, I'm going to follow it to a T. Good job, that's it. As things increase in training, I need to make sure that I'm then refueling and drinking enough water for not just breastfeeding, because that in itself, you're starving and thirsty all the time, to then, if you're adding training sessions and things like that, to make sure that there's enough food for you and little man. It's a whole new perspective on parenthood. It's not just motherhood, but parenthood. Your world's changed, but I think it's, well, worth it.
She is just incredible, and for the full video you can head to womens.afl and the AFLW app right now to check it out. There's also a feature piece which Sarah wrote as well. I just absolutely love it, and she's not the only one, because there are several AFLW players who have gone away, had children, Jess Stuffin, Daisy Pearce of course, and then have come back to the elite level. I'm just amazed by what they do, Ruby.
Yeah, I'm not sure you'll catch me doing that, girls. So popping them out and getting out. Yeah, no, it's incredible. And, I mean, we have mums in our team whose beautiful partners have carried Sabrina Frederick-Traub, Ash Brazel, and it's so special for them being able to carry their babies out onto the field. It's a really, you see it in the men's, how proud they are to take their children out of the field. It'd be pretty special to see her walk out with Parker.
It's just crazy. Do you think she's going to maybe get the call up soon, Sarah, before the season's out?
I hope so. She's been the heart and soul of that Geelong side for a long time. VFLW player. Yeah. She's worked so hard. Unfortunately, Geelong's midfield is going as well as it is, and they don't have any injuries, the Cats, at all. So fingers crossed we see Renee out there.
Congratulations, Renee, on what you've been able to achieve so far, and fingers crossed a selection for the senior side is not too far away. Time now, though, for our deep dive, and it has to be the match of the round. Of course, it is North Melbourne coming up against your Pies, and you've got a pretty healthy rivalry, you two.
Yeah, definitely. It's been going a couple of years now. I'd say,
spice.
Yeah, definitely. They obviously took a few of our players early on when they came into the season, which I won't hold that against them. I love the girls, still love them, Kingy and Jazzy and all that. But I would actually say one of our best wins as a club was that, was it the prelim or the semi-final against North at Vic Park, where we came behind from 3 goals and managed to get in front. That's still probably one of our best wins as a club. So we definitely hold on to that, and I reckon, you know, over the years it's been very back and forth, and they've had it over us the last year, so hopefully our turn.
Well, one of the key matchups that I am most looking forward to is what happens with Jazz Garner, because last week against Port Adelaide she had 27 disposals, 2 goals, but 717 metres gained. She is leading the AFL Coasters Association Champion Player of the Year award. How do you stop her? Do you actually need to come up with a plan to kind of put some more time and attention into her?
Oh, look, as a midfield, it's no lie, we are a young midfield, and we luckily had the scratch match against them in our pre-season scratchies. So, I don't know, we'll sort of go in backing ourselves and see how it unfolds as we go. We know, you know, Michaela Can has done a few tagging roles for us, but, we'll back ourselves in first and see if we have to make an adjustment. The thing with Jazzy is I think there's not many players in the league like Jazzy Garner, and I think her and Bree Davey are in a league of their own. So what can you do to stop them? You can try, but you actually just have to try and make your game, you know, and the people around you bring into it to outplay them. So, yeah, we'll look into it, but I think we will try and back ourselves in and take it to them.
Sarah, for you, I reckon there's another player, though, for the Roos that you think is a little bit maybe more damaging than Jazz Garner.
I'm not sure whether more damaging. I think it's hard to say any more player is more damaging than Jazz, but I think who has the tendency to turn a match is Emma Carney. The skipper she's hit a rich vein of form, playing off half-back once again. And the last few games, she's really seemed to have taken it upon herself to really drive the Roos. You know, if they've had a slow start, they've been struggling to get going. It's been Carney who's been the one to create and run and carry. I don't think we give her speed enough credit. At the age of 33, she's still outrunning most of the competition. And yeah, I feel like she could be the one, Roos. You get a close eye on Carnes and make sure that she doesn't kick the Roos into gear.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, you look at our forward line and we've got a new look with Ash Braz up there, so is there opportunity for her? We're a bit more dynamic up there, Sarah Rowe pushing forward rather than on the wing now, so does she have to be less, I guess, in that attacking and more defensive? It'll be interesting to see whether she plays that similar offensive role.
She was quite offensive against Brisbane, who do have arguably the deepest forward line. But, yeah, definitely a different look, as you said, for the Pies.
No, I cannot wait for this game. Sarah, when it comes to North Melbourne, though, what do they need to watch out for with the Pies?
So we spoke about the attack, but the Pies' defence is comfortably the strongest part of the field, Ruby. You've been in and out of the side a little bit, not out of the side, out of that line a little bit, playing in the midfield. And we've just seen the continual rise of some of your younger players, Geordie Allen, Alana Porter and Lauren Butler growing in confidence. And, you know, what do these girls, particularly Lauren Butler, who I don't think gets enough credit for what she does?
Look, it's a credit to Wayne Siegman, our first coach, who drafted these girls and really saw the talent, because you see in our list, the depth in our list is due to these young girls that we picked up sort of middle of the draft and the players that they've developed into. And we speak about Lauren Butler. She wouldn't have said more than 2 words in her first year. She was such a shy player, and she is just the most loved person at the club. She was awarded Players Player in season 6, and so well deserved, but her skills are some of the best in the team. And you know, in her 4th season she's been awarded with a leadership position, her first time in the leadership group. But yeah, the back line as a whole now being supported by, you know, Sophie Casey, who's been in some ripping form, one of our OGs, as well as Stacey Livingston, who played a cracker against Freo. So, and I guess Lauren Brazzali, who has probably stepped into my old role of that really attacking defender, which she's really owning that role at the moment. So I think, yeah, they're just playing really well together, and we've got a great mix.
And so to bring it back to North Melbourne, what I think the Roos need to do is, well, obviously be aware of that, but you know, really lower their eyes and try not to get sucked into forcing an intercept for the Pies.
The Pies just look like they're growing in confidence. Are you feeling that as a group?
Yeah, definitely. I think a massive thing is our fitness. I don't think we've ever looked fitter. And I think it shows in our GPS numbers and all our numbers at training that we actually are just the fittest we've ever been, and running out games and pulling up really well from games. It's the healthiest list we've had, bar Britt and Bree, who are obviously inactive. But we have girls missing out. We saw Eliza James be omitted for the Fremantle game, which was a huge shock, but you fit Ash Sheridan in somehow, so it's a good problem to have. We've got girls missing out, you know, who would be playing on any other side. It's really exciting.
Well, you are in the race for top 4, and last week we looked at, I guess, the race for that 8th spot on the ladder, but we want to look a little closer at the top 4. So obviously Brisbane, Melbourne, yourself, Collingwood, all on 7 wins. Then you've got Adelaide, one of 3 clubs, on 6 wins, but Adelaide's percentage obviously a little bit better, so it has them in the top 4 for now. I want to break down these premiership contenders, girls, and I want to know, what are their kryptonite? What are their weaknesses? Rubes, do you want to start us off, Brisbane and Melbourne? What have you got?
Very similar sides in the way they want to play. They want to use that outside, their run and carry, and they're so good at it as well. To be honest, they haven't really been too challenged as of yet by a really high pressure and a team that with a lot of forward territory dominance. So it'll be interesting, you know, coming into the back end, coming into finals, will they sort of face that, and will we see a flaw in their game? Because there isn't a lot of flaws, but I think if teams want to have their best chance of winning against them, they really need to beat them at the stoppage and go forward and keep that territory. You know, you can't give up the fat side. You can't allow them to get their run and carry. You know, Ola O'Dwyer is so damaging. So, yeah, they just need to... It's hard because they don't have any flaws, and if you keep them skinny and force along down the line, you've got Taylor Harris down the line, you've got Wardlaw. how do you stop them? But I think in the coming weeks, heading into finals, we'll see them challenged a bit more and hopefully see a few cracks.
Wow, that's because you're playing with the Brisbane Lions in a couple of weeks, aren't you? What about Collingwood, Sarah? Ruby, close your ears. But...
Ruby Schleicher in the midfield. Get her out, floor.
All-Australian defender. What are they doing?
Yeah, idiots.
What are their weaknesses?
Yeah, so we spoke about the new Collingwood forward line a little bit earlier this episode, but it's just been you've managed to get a fair bit of play in there, but I think just the capitalisation on the amount of footy has just been a bit of an issue at times. Not one of the highest scoring sides, especially when compared to Melbourne and Brisbane. We're really nitpicking when it comes to these sort of teams. But that seems to be the one little chink in the armour for the Pies is scoring prowess.
And what about the Crows? Because in the couple of games we've seen them lose in season 7 so far, they kind of panic a little bit when they're under pressure. That's something that we haven't necessarily seen from them in the past 6 seasons. Yeah,
it's an interesting, not a new look at Adelaide. It's not necessarily the best thing, but they're panicking. They're struggling to get the handball chains going that we see Brisbane and Melbourne. And maybe it's an evolution of the game style that needs to be successful at AFLW level. You can't just rely on being a bigger body in the stoppage. You need to have a bit more skill in there as well. The Crows, obviously losing Aaron Phillips, she was sort of a bit of she had that X factor. Yeah. She had that ability to break a game open and to turn the tide. And I just think that sometimes when facing some of these top sides, the Crows are struggling to find that breakthrough player, especially now in the absence of Chelsea Randall.
Curious to know, who do you think is Collingwood's biggest threat right now?
Look, it'd be hard not to say Brisbane.
Yeah.
They really have shown their strengths all across the ground. They're definitely a hard team to stop, and round 10 we'll head over there to Metricon Stadium and it'll be a big game. And I mean, it's no secret there's also been a bit of a rivalry between us the last couple of years, particularly when it gets down to finals. So it'll be a big challenge. They are a very well-rounded side, and all lines are just so damaging.
Still so many mouth-watering clashes to come. And then we have finals. I cannot wait. Well, we had a little bit of fun with your skipper, Ruby, in Steph Chiocci ahead of the big game this weekend. We pit her against North Melbourne's captain in Emma Carney for a little bit of fact or fiction. Let's check it out.
Fact or fiction, 2 AFLW players going head-to-head, each telling their story. Is it the truth or is it a lie? Let's find out. All right, so I'm here with captain of North Melbourne, Emma Carney, and also the captain of Collingwood, Steph Chiocci. Okay, Emma, all right, here's your story. Let's go.
All right, so when I was about 4, I was helping Dad out on the farm, and I was in the ute, and me and my sister were sitting next to each other. And she kicked me. We were fighting. She kicked me out. I went flying outside of the ute, and the ute ran over me.
And what injuries did you sustain from this event?
No injuries, but I was in a wheelchair for a couple of days, I think. I'm not sure of the details.
No injuries, but in a wheelchair for a couple of days. I'm going to say that this is fiction. So my story is this, so obviously Italian heritage, and instead of growing up playing lawn bowls, we used to play bocce at every family event. I actually entered a tournament under 13s, registered for the bocce tournament. It was down in Epping, because that's where the Abruzzo club is, and I participated. I came 3rd. However, my nickname was Chocci Bocci, which I thought was quite funny, and yeah, that's my story.
So many details. I'm just laughing at the Chocci Bocci. Why hasn't Chocci Bocci stayed around?
I don't know, actually.
What do you think, Emma? Fact or fiction?
Chocci Bocci? This is fictional, surely.
Fact or fiction?
Look, I've known Choch for 6 years, 7 seasons now. I've had to put up with her as my captain. I've never heard Chocci Bocci, so it could be a new nickname that I bring through. But Choch is a weirdo, so I wouldn't be surprised. I would not be surprised if it's true. I'm going to say fact.
Well, we're going to have to keep you hanging To find out the answer, you've got to go to our AFLW social channels and watch the full episode and you'll get the answer. So make sure you do that. Just before we go, though, it's time to take a look at what's been making news across social media and trending, of course, in the buzz. Now, there was a scratch match the other day, and Sarah Perkins, how good is this? She's actually taping the ankles of the opposition, the Carlton girl. Surely this is not real.
Oh, look, I remember one time I think we went over to Perth and Chotch was doing people's ankles and stuff like that because we had a few trainers who didn't know how to strap that only knew how to rub people. So that's just women's footy for you.
Aww.
There's a few of us that do our own ankles
Sharing
back
the love.
in basketball days. So, yeah, not unusual, but what a legend, Perko.
I strap my own ankles. Like, yeah. It's just...
You don't need trainers, do you?
No.
You know how to do it yourself. You've had that many ankle injuries, Sarah. But we love sharing the love here on the W Show in particular. And we've got a couple of twins who, well, I don't know if they're sharing the love, but the Hosking twins, just check this out from their holiday. Prank wars. What? I can't wait for the retaliation. There's been a few good ones, like the toilet paper one from last year. Do you remember that one?
Yeah, I do. To be honest, I'm not so worried about the water. I think Jess there needs to put some sunscreen on. She was looking pretty pink there, so I think her sister probably could have looked out with her with a bit of slip, slop, slap.
Also, a holiday mid-season to Hamilton Island. Must be nice.
Yeah, I know. Well, while the sun was out there, this was Melbourne last week when we had an unprecedented amount of rain, and this was Collingwood training. Just going for a bit of a swim there, a slip and slide.
Yeah, safe to say there was a few regrets on that one. It was we're pretty still water, and Chris Gamble, our development coach, leading the pack there. We all slid in, and it absolutely stunk. So stay tuned on what diseases we get from it. We're just waiting to see if there's any growths or anything.
I thought there was a
I'll
smell
let you know,
in the
though.
studio
Yeah,
today.
no, there is.
Oh,
yeah.
good.
You do have the Brisbane game coming up. You do have a history of things popping up just before you play the Lions.
Yeah.
Now we know what it's going to be.
Well, that's it, exactly.
Oh, my goodness. All right, before we wrap up here on the W Show, just something that you're looking forward to this weekend. I'm sure it's your game, but outside of the match of the round, what are you looking forward to, Rubes?
Adelaide Geelong, I think, two massive opportunities for Adelaide to, figure out how to play without Chelsea and see how they work into a really important part of the season. But Geelong, hopefully we see Renee Guerin coming in, but if not, just, hitting some form and playing together with potential of top four.
Well, if they win, they'll be in the top four. Sarah, what about you?
Unsurprisingly, see if the Tigers... what Grace Egan has turned the hot girl hot streak, whether that will continue with 7 in a row.
Incredible.
Footy in Mildura. They're playing GWS up there. So, if you're in the region, head down to watch some footy.
For mine, there is one team that's yet to have a win, and that's the Sydney Swans, and I'm hoping that they will get a win before the season is out. They're running out of time, though. They play an injury-ravaged Dockers side, so this could be a chance for the Sydney Swans. Ruby, it's been so great having you on the W Show. Thanks so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me, guys.
As a special thank you, we've got a little treat for you from our friends at the 2nd Avenue Grocer. They're a valued NAB customer, so enjoy the goodies. Make sure you share some with your teammates, though.
Yeah, I will. I'll try. If I eat that now, I reckon I'll be 2 kilos heavier before the Brisbane game round 10, so I better steer clear for the moment.
Well, best of luck against the Roos. Sarah, as always, love your work. To see all of Sarah's fine work, you can go to womens.afl and the AFLW Live app. We'll be back again with another edition of the W Show, thanks to NAB, next week. Until then, enjoy your week. Geelong star Chloe Shear faces her old side for the very first time when the Cats face a tough Crows team in Adelaide on Friday night. Go to womens.afl to get your tickets to catch all the action.